Welcome to this week's episode of So It's Not Just Me. I'm your host, Joanna, and today we're going to talk about something quite fun. We all know that I have changed careers, changed locations, done all the things, but you don't always want to hear my story. And I think it's really interesting to hear other people's stories and what they've done and how they've got to where they are. So, with that, I'd like to introduce today's guest, Anthony. Anthony, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, so I'm Anthony. Like Joanna mentioned, I'll be kind of talking about changing careers, about switching from one industry to another, and in my case, very abruptly with almost no notice. Something that is scary, daunting, but also ended up being the best decision that I've ever made, in my opinion. So really excited to get into it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear more because I know very, very basics, so I don't know too much. So, can you tell us what career you was in to start with, what you was doing before?
Yeah, absolutely. I was what you would consider communications. I was working in a call center, essentially for it was for a large healthcare corporation here in the Tampa Bay area that most people are familiar with. I won't use their name specifically, but they are basically on every corner. You can find their clinics, you can find their hospitals. You can they're very their brand is very recognizable around here. So I started off working in one of their hospitals as a patient transporter. Essentially, I was the guy that would take you from your hospital room in a stretcher down to your imaging tests, your X-rays, your CT scans, your MRIs, and then when you're done with your test, I would bring you back up to your room. So essentially, if a patient was moving anywhere in the hospital, I would, or one of us would be responsible for getting you there safely and then getting you back. We also had other duties like patient discharges, handling, at basically any kind of movement of patients or belongings within the hospital.
Right,
So after about a year of doing that, I got into I was informed by one of my friends that switching to the call center environment, switching to one of their offices where you would schedule the appointments remotely for outpatients, in this case, not people in the hospital, but people, ambulatory patients, was a good move. It was a more stable career. It was less physically demanding, and it would offer pretty solid benefits as well. So that was when I decided to go ahead and switch from the hospital setting to the call center environment.
right. And was it around that time that you was having the first baby?
This was actually a couple of years before the first
Before,
baby. Yeah, so
right?
had a lot more free time, a lot more, freedom to make decisions like that.
Yeah,
And I felt more comfortable making the switch from the hospital to the office because I didn't have um, that responsibility of a child yet. So
right.
I was definitely free to make decisions like that without too much worry or anxiety.
Perfect. And did you enjoy doing that?
So the patient transporting, I did enjoy it, mostly because of the people that I worked with. I made a lot of really good friends in that department. It was a lot of people around my age who were kind of in the same boat. They knew that what they were doing wasn't a career. It wasn't going to
Right,
be what they were doing long term. Uh, but it was more so a stepping stone, a way to get your foot in the door with the company so that eventually you could move into a different department.
right. Okay. And then, how long was you working in the call center before you decided to make the big change?
So I worked in the call center for about 5 years,
Right. Okay.
um, starting off on the call floor as just a regular agent, taking calls 9 hours a day, two 10-minute breaks, and one 40-minute lunch.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're in your cubicle in front of your monitors taking calls.
Yeah.
So it was, again, not physically demanding, but I would say much more mentally challenging to essentially have the same script read over and over again. We're taking, 60 to 70 calls a day, each one of them lasting anywhere from 4 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on the
Right.
complexity of the type of test or, whatever challenges the patient may have faced or may bring up during the call. So, um, yeah, it was again more mentally challenging than anything. And then I'd say the only physical strain would be on your eyes, just looking at a monitor for 8 9 hours straight. Definitely was not good for the eyesight, not good for the eyes. You're straining. The blue light is definitely not too good for your eyes. So
Mm-mm.
it was not so fun in that respect.
No, I did call center for one of the big utility companies back in England for I can't remember if it was 7 or 9 years because I tried to block it out for as long as I could because it was terrible,
Uh
and we had
huh.
this whole it's like being a chicken in a chicken factory because 'cause you're just doing the same thing, rinse and repeat over and over again, so it is so draining. People don't think it's as draining as it actually is because you just sat on the phone, but it really is. It's
Exactly.
really
And
hard
then
work.
you do feel like a cog in a machine because when you look out at the call floor, it is a sea of over 100 cubicles of everybody doing the same exact thing that you are.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really foster much sense of satisfaction. I
Mm-mm.
didn't feel like I was happy with what I was doing. I didn't have a any sort of like physical, tangible result to my work. I only had the statistics at the end of the month that showed how many calls I took, my average call length, the quality, scores from them pulling random calls throughout the month to grade them. I had no satisfaction with what I was doing.
Right, right. So then when did you decide actually this isn't going to be for me anymore? What was like the final thing that made you move to this new venture?
So what I didn't get into was that I was actually starting to climb the ladder in the
Oh,
department.
okay.
So I had gone from a call center agent, just a general scheduler for X-rays and CT scans, to the interventional radiology scheduling, which is more involved procedures, kyphoplasties, ablations, consultations for spinal column repairs, that sort of thing. So when I made that step, that was after about 4 years or I'm sorry, about 3 years of taking regular calls. I
Right.
was invited to join the interventional radiology scheduling. And I think when I got that promotion, it felt a little better because what I was doing was a little more engaging. It had a little bit more substance to it. And I was actually interested in the procedures that I was scheduling. So I would do research and learn a lot. And every day was a surprise. You never knew who was going to call or what kind of test or what kind of procedure and how much research you would need to do in order to get them scheduled correctly. From there, after about a year of doing that scheduling, I was promoted to a coordinator. And
Wow.
my job at that point was not to take calls anymore, but to start grading calls for all of the other agents. And when I say grading, I should clarify, I mean, I would be the person who received the errors and the incident reports from the patients themselves when they realized that something was not done correctly by one of our agents, or from one of the imaging centers who would send us a report saying, hey, this patient was scheduled incorrectly. Here's the date of the call. Can you please listen to the call, find out what went wrong, and then educate your scheduler? So I was the only person doing this kind of work for a department of over 100 people.
Wow, that's intense.
So, minimum 20 cases a day, sometimes as high as 30, where I would need to uh, read the incident report. I would have to pull the call log for the scheduler who created the error. I would have to listen to the entirety of the call to find out where the error happened, whether it was a miscommunication from the patient, whether the scheduler didn't hear them correctly, and whether they just clicked the wrong button when they were trying to schedule an appointment. They hit 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock, and then the patient showed up at 9 o'clock, and now they're told, oh, your appointment's not till 10. Sometimes people would schedule the appointment at the complete wrong location.
Oh
They would say,
gosh.
"Oh, I want the location that's in Tampa," and they would end up getting scheduled at the location that's in St. Petersburg.
Right.
And then, of course, they show up to the Tampa location expecting to have an appointment, and they're told, "Sorry, the call that you placed a month ago to make this appointment was actually booked in St. Petersburg, and there's nothing we can do."
Right. Right.
So that was my main function as a coordinator. From there, I was given another promotion about a year later to the supervisor level, which brought on, in addition to all the things that I was doing previously as a coordinator, I was given HR responsibilities with direct reports underneath me.
Right.
So essentially, I had 50 direct reports. Almost half of the department was directly reporting to me. I had to keep an eye on their statistics. I had to keep an eye on their call volumes. and then also deal with any of the HR background stuff on top of all of the incident and the error reporting that I was responsible for previously.
That's a lot of work. For one person,
Absolutely.
that's a lot of work.
Hmm.
I no. No, thank you.
Yeah, it was quite a lot of responsibility, and the main thing that kind of drove me to abruptly change my career path and change what I was doing was the fact that I wasn't being compensated properly.
Right, okay.
They were not paying me nearly as much as I should have been for the amount of work and the amount of value that I was bringing to the department.
Right, okay. And with that comes the extra stress because like you're stressed because you're not getting the correct compensation. That rolls off to home life because as much as we don't want to, stress from work always comes home. I know
Absolutely.
that, you know that it's just how it is, and it's not fair. But again, when you're not being compensated enough, it's not worth it, in my opinion. You can't carry on
And
like that.
at this point, also, was when our son Bennett was around. You know, he had been born just before I became a coordinator.
Right. Okay.
So I was thinking I can climb the ladder with this company. I can, start making more money financially. The stresses will go down, even if, with the work, the stresses go up. At least, financially, I'll be better off. And granted, this company did have very good benefits as far as health insurance, 401k matching, and all of that stuff. So the benefits were good, but benefits don't pay your bills, benefits don't
Right.
buy your groceries. And then again, when I did end up getting to the supervisor level, the compensation did not match up with how much responsibility and how much of the workload I was needing to do.
Yeah.
So,
It's not. It's not worth it.
absolutely
In my
not.
opinion, anyway, it's not worth it at all.
I don't
Uh,
think. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
I was going to say there's not. It's hard to come up with a number that would be enough for me to deal with that kind of stress and that kind of workload.
Yeah.
If I was being, compensated over six figures, then maybe that sort of workload would be acceptable because that would take away most of the other stressors in my life. I would be able to pay for, my bills without having to worry about it.
Yeah.
So that it would be difficult to put a number on that. I think now in hindsight, there is no amount of money that you could pay me to do that kind of work again. It just is not conducive to my personal mindset, how I like to work, and I just don't think that I could ever go back to an environment like that.
No, no. And the environment, I know that we've been very, very careful not to say what the new environment is yet because I like this build up of suspense, I guess. But we will get there very, very soon. This new environment, I can see a difference in you. You look so much happier. You look so much more joyful. Um, and I'm so excited to hear what this new environment is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I decided to get into the craft brewing industry. It's been a passion of mine for quite a while. Home brewing specifically, I would make beer at home in my garage in my backyard. Um, Not very good, but it was drinkable.
Yeah.
It didn't make me sick, so we're happy with that. I can drink it. And that passion had been building up for ever since I turned 21, and I was able to just go to the store and pick out whatever cool looking craft beers I could find. Um, so I decided to end my employment with my previous company with nothing lined up and essentially just fling my resume out to any brewery that I could think of in the area that was within 20 miles of where we lived.
Right.
Looking for a bartending position, looking for a production position, really anything that I could do to get my foot in the door, kind of like with the previous company, how I started off in the hospital as a transporter. In my mind, I was thinking if I just get my foot in the door with the brewery, I can prove my work ethic and then they'll give me more opportunities from there.
Right.
And I got incredibly lucky to get a response from a brewery up here in Odessa, which is in Pasco County, who initially hired me on as a full time bartender. I guess you could call me a beer tender since I'm really just pouring beers.
Right.
But they gave me a full time position as a beer tender. And the throughout the first few months, as I was, learning the front of house aspect of things, I mentioned to my owners that I would be very interested in getting into the production side of things as well. So if they had any opportunities at all whatsoever for the back of house, for the brewing, the cellar work, even if I'm just cleaning kegs, I will do it so that I can learn, so I can get the experience, so I can take that with me when I eventually do move on to my own venture. Um, so yeah, my owners incredibly receptive to that. They could feel my passion. They could feel how much I cared about the product. They could feel how much I enjoyed talking to people. I already had developed good communication skills from being in a call center for 6 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think that helps as far as beer tending, having a conversation with anybody who walks in the door. You need to be able to have a conversation with them, keep them in their seat so that they drink more beer, so that
Yes. Yeah.
everybody makes more money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that skill definitely translated pretty well, the communication aspect of things. And then the technical skill, because I did have experience with home brewing, I knew the basics of making beer. I know the processes, the vocabulary, the terminology as far as what's going on back there. It's just going from making 5 gallons of beer at a time to making 1,000 gallons at a time,
Right.
and scaling it up to a commercial scale that is economically viable.
Yeah. So when you decided to give up the first job and look for something new, because like you say, you had nothing lined up, how did that happen? How did that conversation go?
So one day, the story goes that one day I had a very, very stressful first half of my day.
Right.
I had 15 incident errors come in. I had three of my direct reports come in asking for various things, saying they needed this time off immediately, this time off, that time off. I had gotten less than desirable comments from my higher ups, from my managers, as far as handling the amount of people that I did. And I went on my lunch break and I sat in my car, almost in tears. And I called my wife, Katie, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I am on the verge of a serious mental breakdown. If I have to continue working in this environment, if I have to continue feeling these stressors and this anxiety every morning before I come in, on my way to work every morning, I would be nauseous. I would be so anxious that it would physically make me feel sick. And I would sit in the car for as long as possible in the parking lot, delaying having to go into the office. So after all of that building up, again, one day on lunch, I called Katie and I said, listen, I can't do this anymore. I am going to quit my job today. And she, without hesitating, without batting an eye, said, do it. Quit your job. Do not stay there any longer than you have to, because she could see how much it stressed me out. She understood how bad of a mental position I was in at that point, and she agreed with me that the only way that I was going to get out of that environment was to do something drastic, like quit my job immediately
Yeah.
on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that likes to wait until the opportune moment. I like to wait until everything is lined up perfectly and everything is going to end up good and I can plan ahead. And if it's not that way, then I won't act. And I think that's procrastination, I think is almost a good way to describe that is,
Yeah.
unless everything is exactly how I need it to be, I'm not going to make the decision and I'm not going to act. So in that moment, I realized I needed to just end this situation. My mindset was that it's going to work out in the end. I will find something. We have savings that we can rely on for a while for me to be able to find a position that's going to work for us financially and mentally for me.
Right.
So again, she agreed. She encouraged me. She said, do it. I went back into my office and I put in my 2 week notice within 20 minutes of that conversation
Wow.
with my wife.
And that,
So
I think that's really important to have somebody who's in your corner, who's fighting for you and believing what you need, and is very, very much aware of mentally what it's doing to people. Like I 100% believe that talking to people about issues is so much stronger than keeping them to yourself. And especially when you've got a good partner that you can rely on and talk to and tell these situations to. Without that, you'd be stuck there forever.
Absolutely. And I think the benefits that the really cheap health insurance that we were getting through that company was really the only regret that I have of leaving that department, of leaving the company, because it was good health insurance and it was very cheap for the amount of coverage that we had. We do have health insurance through Katie's employment now, so
Right.
we are still covered. But that was one of the only things that really made me hesitate leaving, was giving up those benefits and kind of that security of having good, cheap health coverage. But in the grand scheme of things, we can't let benefits like that hold you back
Yeah.
from chasing your passion, from creating opportunities for yourself. If I
Yeah.
had never quit my job, if I had never had time unemployed to go in person to all of these breweries and apply and send my resume and have conversation with owners and brewers and basically everybody I could, then I never would have found the opportunity that I did with my current brewery.
Have you have you been with the same one since you started doing this?
Yes. So I
Same one.
started working with my brewery as September of 2024, so a little
Okay.
over a year ago. And I've been with them since. About February of this year is when I started working in the back of house, which was really eye opening for me. Like I mentioned, I told them I'll do anything back of house. So what do they have me doing? They have me cleaning kegs for 8 hours straight because their brewer was too busy making beer,
Right.
doing administrative work, to do the general labor necessities of the brewery. So I would spend 2, 3 days a week just cleaning kegs. And once they saw my dedication, once they saw that I was serious about actually working in the production side of things, they started giving me more responsibilities. So I do some of the cellar work now. I clean the fermenters, I clean the brew house, I work on the canning line, the packaging. And actually, coming up next year in Q2, so probably around March or April, they're going to have me brew my first beer.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So, really, really amazing owners that I have to not only give me the opportunity, but like actually manifest that for me, and to
Yeah,
to pick up on my passion and pick up on my work ethic, and then allow me to further that with them.
that's
Because
really
not every
cool.
brewery would give you as many opportunities as mine has.
No, no.
The
That's
job
very,
market
very
out
cool.
there, yeah.
What surprised you the most about it as a job compared to what you imagined it would be?
I would say the amount of physical work that it takes in the back of house. People have an idea of brewers just being, a very glamorous job of, oh, you just get to sit around and, drink beer, and, once you make a batch of beer, then you're just sitting around and drinking all day, and, you're not having to do too much, and it's a very physically demanding job.
Right.
Each bag of grain that you throw into the grain mill weighs about 25 kilos. So
Okay.
what, a little like 55 pounds, maybe 60 pounds. So having to throw 10, 15 bags of those over your shoulder into the grain mill, that alone, and that's just the first part of the brew, is getting the grain into the mill.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're stirring, you're bending down, cleaning tanks, you're pulling, 500, 600 pound bins of spent grains out of the mash tun, and using a forklift to pull those outside. And just, the physical demands of the job, I think, were the most surprising. Because I was guilty of that whole glamorized version of brewing. My only experience was home brewing, where I'm making 5 gallons of beer. I only have maybe a 15-pound bag of grain that goes in once, and that's it.
Right.
So being physically healthy, being fit, making sure that you can actually do the job itself, I think was the most eye-opening thing. I definitely have built up some endurance and a little bit of muscle mass working here, compared to working in a call center, excuse me, where you're just sitting in a chair staring at a computer all day.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed a big change in my physical health. Um, And also, I would say one of the things I wasn't exactly prepared for was the diversification when it comes to brewing. Nowadays, the brewery industry is shrinking. It's starting to crunch a bit. About 10 years ago, in the middle of the craft beer craze here, especially in Florida, here in in Tampa and St. Petersburg, there were every little suburb, every little town had 4 or 5 breweries to pick from, and the market got incredibly saturated with not the best quality beer.
Right.
So there were a lot of people who noticed the trend of craft beer and wanted to cash in on it, essentially.
Right.
So they opened up shop, set up their brewery. They have their basic IPA recipe, their basic stout recipe, and they thought that that was going to make them as successful as some of the heavy hitters around here, like Cigar City Brewing or Tampa Bay Brewing Company. These
Yeah.
huge conglomerates that are distributing their beer all across the country.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that they could be that size eventually. When when the people go to breweries and they find the beer that they like and the quality that they like, they tend to stick with those breweries. And if you don't have a good quality beer, or kind of how they refer to it in the industry is if you don't have good liquid, you're not going to keep people
Yeah.
coming in the door.
Yeah.
So what we found now with the market shrinking, with a lot of these smaller breweries that didn't make it starting to close, is that people, even if you do have good liquid, it's still not enough to keep them coming in the door at a consistent rate. So our owners have changed course a little bit. While we still do make beer, we have 18 beers on tap right now with a good variety that we all make. We make all of them in house. We are starting to manufacture seltzers, sodas, different types of beverages for
Nice.
different types of clientele.
Yeah.
Specifically, the one that we're kind of pushing pretty hard right now is the cannabis seltzer industry.
Okay.
So THC and CBD infused drinks. A lot of people like to go out with their friends, but they don't drink. But they still want to sip on something that's not just a Diet Coke
Yeah.
or an iced tea or something. So we picked up on that notion and we started manufacturing THC infused drinks for people to be able to sip on if they aren't really interested in alcohol or interested in craft beer specifically.
Is there a
Um,
market for that?
there absolutely is.
Really?
It is surprising how many people, once they know that it's out there and that it's legal and that they can consume them without any worry, of course, not driving afterwards or anything,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
once they realize that it is, kind of socially acceptable and they try one, I think people are really picking up on the fact that it's a great alternative to drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
Um, Not that drinking alcohol is, a bad thing. Of course, we manufacture it, we sell it. I love beer. I drink beer almost every day. So, but there is definitely a market for these cannabis drinks. A lot of people are starting to pick up on the alternative and that they didn't understand the therapeutic effects that it can have as far as the CBD specifically, which is the non-psychoactive component
Yeah.
in THC. It has anti-inflammatory properties, anti-anxiety. It basically can make you feel more relaxed without getting you high,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of people are starting to take advantage of those benefits.
Do you know what? My this is completely off subject, I guess, but my doctor actually recommended me taking CBD gummies for my migraines because of the stress relief, the anxiety relief. They just help. I haven't tried it yet. Well, I've tried it once. Somebody else had it, and it worked charm.
Hmm.
So it's definitely there's more to it than just getting high. I think that's
Exactly.
too many people
And
just think it's getting high, and it's not. So it's I'm very happy there's a market for that. I might have to come try it. That's very interesting. So, spoiler alert, since this episode, I did purchase some of the THC drinks from Anthony's Brewery, and they are absolutely incredible. 100% recommend. Um, Possibly the best ones I have had.
Yeah, and you can find them. Most liquor stores are going to have a section now for cannabis infused drinks,
Yeah.
THC, CBD, CBG. You can find pretty much any mix of cannabinoids that you're looking for nowadays in a commercial product. A lot of bars and restaurants are starting to carry them now. I was down in Dunedin a few weeks ago, and one of the bigger breweries down there called House of Beer, they have,
Mhm.
in addition to all of their beers that they make, they have a lineup of like 4 or 5 different cannabis seltzers,
Oh,
all
okay.
with different strengths. Some of them are 10 milligrams of THC, some of them are 20, some of them are 5. And it gives you a good variety to pick from depending on what you're looking for. So
Nice.
the market is definitely there. And I think businesses are starting to realize that they can capitalize on this new market that's starting to emerge.
Yeah. So, when you think about somebody working in a brewery or a bar or a pub or anything like that kind of setup, you always think long hours, late hours. Is that the case with your industry or where you're at right now, or is that more of a kind of a myth? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I can only speak for my brewery since it's the only one that I've worked for. My hours are luckily not awful. When I'm working in the production side of things, it's 8:15 to about 5 p.m. So an essentially a full workday. And again, it is physical labor. It is a strenuous job. So that can end up being a long day. If we're running the canning line for all 9 hours of the day, and I'm sitting here just taking cans and putting them in a box for 7 of those 9 hours, then it can get a little monotonous, a
Mm.
little tedious. The bar side of things, luckily, my bar isn't open late.
Okay.
We close at 9 o'clock on most days, and then on Fridays and Saturdays we close at 10 o'clock. So really, the latest that I get out of work is maybe 10:30, 10:45, depending on how busy it was. So I'm lucky in that respect that our hours are reasonable for somebody who has a family, somebody who has responsibilities at home.
Yeah.
I am still able to spend plenty of time here at home and not be out working until 2, 3 in the morning, which I know is the case for a lot of other kind of hospitality bar workers, industry workers like that.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. Is it a nice life work balance that you have now? Is it better now than what you had before?
I would say yes, absolutely. Mostly because of my mental health.
Right.
I'm not bringing the anxiety home anymore. I'm not bringing that stress from everybody else relying on me as a supervisor at my previous job. I'm not bringing that home to my family anymore.
Right.
I am satisfied with what I do. To kind of touch back on what I mentioned earlier about not having satisfaction or not having like a real result for my work. Now I have a tangible result. I have something that I can pick up. I can pick up a glass and I can pour a pint of beer and know that I'm the one who put that beer in that keg. I'm the one who cleaned the keg. I'm the one who cleaned that draft line a week ago to make sure that there's nothing building up and there's no bacteria or any yeast sediment or anything in the line, so that that beer is going to come out nice, crystal clear, delicious, exactly how it's meant to be. I have like a physical result to my work, and I
Right.
think mentally that allows me to kind of not disassociate, but separate when I get home. I don't have to have anxiety about what's happening the next day.
Right.
I can just go home and kind of shut that part of my brain off and then focus on my family.
That's so important to be able to do that. That's the best thing you could ever do. If come years time when the kids are starting to work and they're like, Dad, I don't really like this what I'm doing anymore. I think I'm going to quit. What would your advice be to them?
My advice would be to probably not take as much of a gamble as I did, to put your feelers out there, find a position before you quit your job.
Right.
Because I did take a very big gamble when I decided to quit with nothing lined up. It was a huge risk, um, especially with the job market, how it was a year and a half ago, and even now, how it is now. It was a huge risk for me to take, to try and find work in the hospitality industry. relying only on savings, which
Right.
we had maybe 3 to 4 months worth of bills saved up. So that was kind of my window. This is how long I have to work or to look for a job that's going to not only financially support us, but also mentally support me in what I'd like to do. So
Yeah.
my advice would be again to just plan a little better, recognize the signs of unhappiness and of stress and of anxiety, and do what you can while you still have employment to better your situation without taking such a big risk.
What do you hope to do in the future with the brewing and the industry? What is your like main goal? Can you say what your main goal is or a future goal?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say to open my own production facility, my own brewery under my own brand, to have a tap room, to have, a pub where people can come in, drink beer, socialize, get some good food. Having a kitchen, I think, on site is another one of those things that's necessary now. Because again, craft beer is not going to bring people in the door, even if it's the best beer they ever had. They need something more than just the beer.
Yeah.
So having good beer, having good staff that I can consider family, kind of like how our owners can consider us family. They invite us into their home all the time. We know their kids. They bring their family around us. We are their family. That would be my goal, is to open an establishment that's very similar to where I'm working right now, where 100% of the production is done in house. We can diversify a little bit because all of the equipment is essentially the same for making beer versus making wine versus making seltzers. And my wife and I actually have a bit of a joint goal. So, again, I want my tap room, I want my brewery, I want my production facility.
Mm-hmm.
She has always had a goal of opening a wedding venue.
Yes. Yes.
So we would like to combine those two ideas into buying, I don't know, maybe 10 acres, 20 acres of property out somewhere where it's not quite as expensive as Florida, and
Yes.
building a wedding venue that also has a production brewery on the same premises. If you happen to be a couple that really likes craft beer, or if one of them really likes craft beer, we can make you a custom brew and then wheel right over to your wedding, and you can have your own special beer for your special day.
That sounds
Um,
wonderful. That makes me want to
mhm,
get married all over again once you've set up. I'll put that idea in Carl's head.
absolutely.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Such a good idea. There's so many people who go to these like wineries and things, and I don't know if I've had anyone or seen anyone that has their own brewed product for a special day. I don't know. You're in the industry. You'd probably know more than I do, but I've seen like these where you make a cocktail and things, but not
Hmm.
a set brew. That's awesome.
Yeah, we've done research, and we don't really have any examples of anybody doing something like that.
No.
Um, so it would be definitely, I think we would be able to kind of start that industry, kind of start that trend of having a custom beer made for your wedding.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And then we'll hold on to the recipe. And if you want us to make more afterwards, every anniversary, if you want us to make another batch, we'll do it,
There you go. You've got a business for life then.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. That's absolutely great. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me. Is there anything that you'd like to add before I let you go?
Maybe just one quick comment to let everybody know that, whatever you're doing now, if you're not happy about it, if it's making you stressed, if it's affecting your mental health, that it is going to be okay in the end. You will figure out what to do. Don't let that situation hold you back from making a decision that's going to better yourself. I did that for a long time. I was really unhappy in that call center for a long time. And I didn't do anything about it because I was afraid of what was going to happen. I was afraid that I would lose my benefits, I would lose my health insurance, and that I wouldn't find anything. And it took a very, very stressful couple of weeks and then a specifically very stressful morning for me to just kind of snap and realize I have to do something about this. So Don't let that anxiety hold you back. Don't let that fear of the unknown prevent you from making decisions that are going to benefit you in the future.
Thank you. That's that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. For anyone who is still listening, thank you for still being here.